Shit, islam, hij houdt van, Barack Obama houdt gewoon een pro-islam praatje. Tegenwoordig. Komt uit de geschiedenis, idioot. Repareer dan Mohammed Ali en nog een paar gouden medaillewinnaars enzovoort. Nou, hoe lang zei ik al dat hij een moslim was? Dat zeg ik al dit jaar, geloof ik. Ja, een andere voor mij natuurlijk, ook al jaren. Maar het raar is dat iedereen applaudisseert en... Bijna een boze droom. Zo dan. Hopelijk hou ik niet het geluid dicht.
Lift up the contributions of the Muslim American community, not when there's a problem, but all the time. Our television shows should have some Muslim characters that are unrelated to national security, right? Because it's not that hard to do. There was a time when there were no black people on television.
Ja, dat is wel even wat anders dan wat je nou zegt.
While still representing the reality.
Men dacht vroeger ook dat de Verenigde Staten een christelijke natie was. Maar als je goed gaat kijken, is het opgezet door de Illuminati.
And I repeat, the overwhelming majority of the world's Muslims embrace Islam as a source of peace. It is undeniable that a small fraction of Muslims propagate a perverted interpretation of Islam. This is the truth.
Ja, hier begint het mee en uiteindelijk hebben we dan de sharia.
They're not the first extremists in history to misuse God's name. We've seen it before across faiths.
Dan moet je nagaan dat hij eerst beweerde dat hij christen was, hè? Anders was hij nooit gekozen. Hij heeft ook hele rare besluiten genomen wat betreft de Arabische lente en ja, richting het Midden-Oosten. Dus werkelijk... Ja, dat krijg je niet te lezen in de kranten. Het is een beetje raar om dit nou opeens op CNN te zien.
Including as we saw tragically in Boston and Chattanooga and San Bernardino.
Hij heeft lang ontkend, hè, dat hij moslim was. Dat heeft hij gewoon ontkend. Of er is over gezwegen, laten we het zo maar zeggen.
Tensions and pressure that disproportionately burden the overwhelming majority of law-abiding Muslim citizens. The question then is, how do we move forward together? How do we keep our country strong and united? How do we defend ourselves against organizations that are bent on killing innocents? And it can't be the work of any one faith alone. It can't be just a burden on the Muslim community, although the Muslim community has to play a role. We all have responsibilities.
Ja, komt toch uit een hoek, hè?
I just want to suggest a few principles that I believe can guide us. First, at a time when others are trying to divide us along lines of religion or sect, we have to reaffirm that most fundamental of truths. We are all God's children. We're all born equal with inherent dignity.
Ja, klinkt allemaal heel menselijk en heel geloofwaardig. Maar dat is niet wat de God van de Bijbel zegt.
Christians, Jews, Muslims, we're all under our faiths, descendants of Abraham.
Hij wist dat hij niet moest zeggen van wij hebben dezelfde God. Hij wist dat hij het niet moest zeggen. Komt op hetzelfde neer. Is dit goed uitgekozen of niet?
We have made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another.
Nou, het lijkt wel alsof hij uit de kast komt, hè?
us have the task of
Ongelooflijk. Nou,
expressing our religious faith in a way that seeks to build bridges rather than to divide. Second, as Americans, we have to stay true to our core values, and that includes freedom of religion for all faiths. I already mentioned
als je een kalifaat hebt,
our
is er
founders,
geen
like
vrijheid
Jefferson,
van
knew
geloof meer, hoor.
that religious liberty is essential not only to
Of wat
protect
de
religion,
sharia
but
is, dan mag je
because
maar één ding geloven.
religion helps
Alle
strengthen
aardbaar.
our nation. If it is free, if it is not an extension of the state, part of what's happened in the Middle East and North Africa and other places where we see sectarian violence is religion being a tool for another agenda, for power, for control.
Ja, hè? Precies wat je nou aan het doen bent.
Freedom of religion helps prevent that. Both ways. Protects religious faiths, protects the state from, or those who want to
En
take
is in
over
het
the state
Midden-Oosten
from using
geweest en
religious
willen zeggen dat je Jood bent of een christen, dan ben je gelijk af te
for their own
maken.
ends. That doesn't mean that those of us with religious faith should not be involved. We have to be active citizenry. But we have to respect the fact that we have freedom of religion. Remember, many preachers and pastors fought to abolish the evil of slavery. People of faith advocated to improve conditions for workers and ban child labor. Dr. King was joined by people of many faiths challenging us to live up to our ideals.
Nou refereert hij even aan een christen. Want wij zijn toch allemaal zo. Dr. King was duidelijk een christen, hè?
Activism. That civic participation that's the
I have a
essence of our
dream.
democracy.
En hij heeft ook een droom, maar dan anders.
By freedom of religion. Now we have to acknowledge that there have been times where we have fallen short of our ideals.
Was het maar zo. Dan komt er
By the way,
misschien allemaal
Thomas
door één
Jefferson's
deur, maar dat
opponents
is nou
tried
net
to
het
stir
probleem.
things up by suggesting he was a Muslim. So I was not the first.
Oh, reclame is oké.
Look it up. I'm in good
Liegen is
company.
oké.
But it hasn't just been attacks of that sort that have been used. Mormon communities have been attacked throughout our history.
Je moet je kinderen van broer, hè. Als je dingen gaat vergelijken, dat gaat nooit goed.
John F. Kennedy, when he ran for president, was accused of being disloyal. There was a suggestion that he would be taking orders from the Pope as opposed to upholding his constitutional duties. Anti-Semitism in this country has a sad and long history, and Jews were excluded routinely from colleges and professions and from public office. And so, if we're serious about freedom of religion, and I'm speaking now to my fellow Christians who remain the majority in this country, we have to understand, an attack on one faith is an attack on all our faiths.
Ongelooflijk, en de hele wereld trapt erin, hè. Maar reken maar dat die man op die plaats is gezet, hoor. Niks gebeurt voor niks.
And we have to reject a politics that seeks to manipulate prejudice or bias and targets people because of religion. We've got to make sure that hate crimes are punished and that the civil rights of all Americans are upheld.
Oh jongens, wat wordt de waarheid voor de rijden.
And just as faith leaders, including Muslims, must speak out when Christians are persecuted around the world, or when anti-Semitism is on the rise. Because the fact is that there are Christians who are targeted now in the Middle East, despite having been there.
Die worden onthoofd, vermoord.
And there are Jews who've lived in places like France for centuries, who now feel obliged to leave because they feel themselves under assault, sometimes by Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be consistent in condemning hateful rhetoric and violence against everyone. And And that includes against Muslims here in the United States of America. So, none of us can be silent. We can't be bystanders to bigotry. And together we've got to show that America truly protects all faiths. Which brings me to my next point. As we protect our country from terrorism, we should not reinforce the ideas and the rhetoric of the terrorists themselves. I often hear it said that we need moral clarity in this fight. The suggestion is somehow that if I would simply say these are all Islamic terrorists, then we would actually have solved the problem by now, apparently. Well, I agree we actually do need moral clarity. Let's have some moral clarity. Groups like ISIL are desperate for legitimacy. They try to portray themselves as religious leaders and holy warriors who speak for Islam. I refuse to give them legitimacy. We must never give them that legitimacy.
No, dat wel meer wel.
They're not defending Islam. They're not defending Muslims. The vast majority of the people they kill are innocent Muslim men, women, and children.
Daarom zegt de Bijbel over een huis dat tegen hetzelfde deel de moord op elkaar uit.
Islam ignores the fact that the world's religions are a part of who we are.
Valt uit elkaar.
We can't be at war with any other religion because the world's religions are a part of the very fabric of the United States, our national character. So the best way for us to fight terrorism is to deny these organizations legitimacy and to show that here in the United States of America, we do not suppress Islam. We celebrate and lift up the success of Muslim Americans. That's how we show the lie that they're trying to propagate. We shouldn't play into terrorist propaganda.
Nou, de Witte Huis heeft niet anders gedaan, hè? 9/11 is niet door moslims gedaan, hoor.
It alienates Muslim Americans. It's hurtful.
Jeetje, alles wat verdraait.
Those kids who are trying to go to school and are members of the Boy Scouts and are thinking about joining our military. That kind of mindset helps our enemies. It helps our enemies recruit.
Geloven jullie die man nog na 8 jaar? Ik weet het niet meer.
So let's be clear about that. Now finally, just as all Americans have a responsibility to reject discrimination, I've said this before, Muslims around the world have a responsibility to reject extremist ideologies that are trying to penetrate within Muslim communities. Here at this mosque and across our country and around the world, Muslim leaders are roundly and repeatedly and consistently condemning terrorism. And around the globe, Muslims who've dared to speak out have often been targeted and even killed. So those voices are there. We just have to amplify them more. And it was interesting in the discussion I had before I came out. Some people said, "Why is there always a burden on us? When a young man in Charleston shoots African Americans in a church, there's not an expectation that every white person in America suddenly is explaining that they're not racist. Everybody is assumed to be horrified by that act. And I recognize that sometimes that doesn't feel fair. But part of the answer is to make sure that the Muslim community, in all of its variety, and all the good works that it's doing, and all the talent that's on display, that it's out there, visible on a consistent basis, not just at a certain moment. But what is also true is that there is a battle of hearts and minds that takes place, that is taking place right now. And American Muslims are better positioned than anybody to show that it is possible to be faithful to Islam and to be part of a pluralistic society and to be on the cutting edge of science and to believe in democracy. And so I would urge all of you not to see this as a burden, but as a great opportunity and a great privilege to show who you are. To use a little Christian
de elite mix.
expression, let your light shine. Because when you do, you'll make clear that this is not a clash of civilizations between the West and Islam. This is a struggle between the peace-loving, overwhelming majority of Muslims around the world and a radical, tiny minority. And ultimately, I'm confident that the overwhelming majority will win that battle. Muslims
Nou, na 2 decades anti-moslim opeens pro.
that it will go. But across the
Boel
Islamic
slaat om,
world,
dus dan zal er wel wat
influential
gebeuren.
voices
Dit jaar.
should consistently speak out with an affirmative vision of their faith. And it's happening. These are the voices of Muslim clerics who teach that Islam prohibits terrorism. For the Quran says, whoever kills an innocent, it is as if he has killed all mankind.
Nou, leuk een vet aanhalen, maar je moet hem helemaal uitlezen, het hele boek.
Some of whom join us today, who know Islam has a tradition of respect for other faiths. And Muslim teachers who point out that the first word revealed in the Quran, Iqra, means read, to seek knowledge, to question assumptions. Muslim political leaders have to push back on the lie that the West oppresses Muslims, and against conspiracy theories that says America is the cause of every ill in the Middle East. Now, that doesn't mean that Muslim Americans aren't free to criticize American U.S. foreign policy. That's part of being an American. I promise you, as the President of the United States, I'm mindful that that is a healthy tradition that is alive and well in America.
Goeiedag. See, oh kijk, Christian, Muslim, Jews are all God's children.
And need to continue to offer a positive vision for progress. And that includes political and economic progress.
Maar het is duidelijk dat het roer omgegooid wordt.
And we have to acknowledge that much of the violence in places like the Middle East
2016.
Is now turning into fights between sects.
Na 20 jaar zwart maken,
where differences are
slaat
often
de
exploited to
bladzij op.
serve political agendas, as I said earlier. And this bloodshed is destroying Muslim families and communities, and there has to be global pressure
Oh, ook dat nog eens een
to
keer.
have the vision and the courage to end this kind of thinking and this approach to organizing political power. It's not historically unique. It's happened in every part of the world, from Northern Ireland to Africa to Asia to right here in the United States in the past. But it is something that we have to fight against. And we know it's possible. Across the history of Islam, different sects traditionally have lived and thrived together peacefully. And in many parts of the world they do today, including here in the United States. Like people of all religions, Muslims living their faith in a modern pluralistic world are called upon to uphold human rights, to make sure that everyone has opportunity. That includes the aspirations of women and youth and all people. If we expect our own dignity to be respected, so must we respect the dignity of others.
Een aanval op één religie is een aanval op alle religies.
conclude by saying that as Muslim communities stand up for the future that you believe in, that you exhibit in your daily lives, as you teach your children, America will be your partner. We will,
Ik vind het een enge vent. Sorry, hoor.
do everything I can to lift up the multiplicity of Muslim voices that promote pluralism and peace.
Kijk eens naar het gezicht en naar die ogen.
We will continue to reach out to young Muslims around the world, empowering them with science and technology and entrepreneurship so they can pursue their God-given potential and help build up their communities and provide opportunity. It's why we will continue to partner with Muslim American communities, not just to help you protect against extremist threats, but to expand healthcare and education and opportunity. Because that's the best way to build strong, resilient communities. Our values must guide us in this work. Engagement with Muslim American communities must never be a cover for surveillance. We can't give in to profiling entire groups of people. There's no one single profile of terrorists. We can't securitize our entire relationship with Muslim Americans. We can't deal with you solely through the prism of law enforcement. We've got to build trust and mutual respect. That's how we'll keep our communities strong and our communities united. Now, as I was in discussion with the young people before I came in here, I said, this will be a process. Law enforcement has a tough job. Some of these groups are specifically trying to target Muslim youth. We're going to have to be partners in this process. There will be times where the relationship is clumsy or mishandled. But I want you to know that from the president to the FBI director to everybody in law enforcement, my directive and their understanding is that this is something we have to do together. And if we don't do it well, then we're actually not making ourselves safer. We're making ourselves less safe. And here I want to speak directly to the young people who may be listening. You know, in our lives, we all have many identities. We are sons and daughters and brothers and sisters. We're classmates. We're Cub Scout troop members. We're followers of our faith. We're citizens of our country. And today, there are voices in this world, particularly over the internet, who are constantly claiming that you have to choose between your identities. As a Muslim, for example, or an American, do not believe them. If you're ever wondering whether you fit in here, let me say it as clearly as I can. As President of the United States, you fit in here, right here. You're right where you belong. You're part of America, too. You're not Muslim or American. You're Muslim and American. And don't grow cynical. Don't respond to ignorance by embracing a worldview that suggests you must choose between your faith and your patriotism. Don't believe that you have to choose between your best impulses and somehow embrace a worldview that pits us against each other, or even worse, glorifies violence. Understand your power to bring about change. Stay engaged in your community. Help move our country forward, your country forward. We are blessed to live in a nation where even if we sometimes stumble, even if we sometimes fall short, we never stop striving for our ideals. We keep moving closer to that more perfect union. We're a country where if you work hard and if you play by the rules, you can ultimately make it, no matter who you are or how you pray. It may not always start off even in the race, but here more than any place else, there is the opportunity to run that race. And as we go forward, I want every Muslim American to remember you are not alone.
Dit is de
Your
shift,
fellow
jongens.
Americans stand with you, just as Saba described her friends.
Velen beseffen het misschien niet,
After
maar
she
wat hij nu
decided
zegt is
she's
heel
gonna
erg
start wearing a hijab.
belangrijk. Voor het komende jaar.
That's not unusual. Because just as so often we only hear about Muslims after a terrorist attack, so often we only hear about America's response to Muslims after a hate crime
Ja,
is
het valt
happening.
me
We
nog
don't
mee dat
always
hij
hear
nog niet
about
over de Mahdi heeft.
the
Hè?
extraordinary respect and love and community that so many Americans feel. I'm thinking about the 7-year-old boy in Texas who emptied his piggy bank to help a mosque that had been vandalized. Or all the faith communities that rallied around Muslim Americans after the tragedy in Chapel Hill. The churches and the synagogues standing shoulder to shoulder with their local mosques, including the woman carrying a sign saying, "We love our Muslim neighbors."
Ja, er waren ook andere signs hoor.
When they heard that a little girl was afraid because she was a Muslim,
Heb je die
sent her a
gevechten
message,
gezien daar?
"I will protect you."
En in Engeland en in Nederland. Over de hele wereld eigenlijk.
I want every American to remember how Muslim communities are standing up for others as well. Because right now, as we speak, there are Muslims in Kenya who save Christians from terrorists, and Muslims who just met in Morocco to protect religious minorities, including Christians and Jews. The good people of this mosque helped the city move forward after the turmoil of last year. Muslim Americans across the country helped African American churches rebuild after arson. Remember the Muslim Americans in Boston who reached out to victims of the marathon bombing. The Muslim Americans across the country who raised money for
Marathonbombingen
the
ook
families
van
of Sam Berg.
CIA en
The
NSA
Muslim Americans in
aangelegenheid.
Chattanooga who honored our fallen service members, one of them saying, "In the name of God, the God of Abraham, Moses, Jesus and Muhammad."
Nee, Abraham, Isaac en Jacob. Alles was gedraaid en met een slingeré, heel verschrikkelijk. Ik ga stoppen, want ik kan hem niet meer vasthouden.